Ladies and gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we are back with you for another episode, and not only just another episode, the final episode before the conclusion of the regular season of the fantasy football playoffs. Perhaps the most important studs and duds of the season, and some of the most important news you can hear before we embark on one last regular season matchup that we have in fantasy football. It's going to be a fun time, and it's even more fun because we made it through. We made it through a Thursday night football game, Wes. And I mean, unfortunately, and I'm crushed. My work Christmas party was tonight. It was the night we are recording right now. We record Thursday nights after the game, just to break the fourth wall right there for you guys and let you guys know how we do things here at Fourth and Troll Fantasy. And unfortunately, my work Christmas party was tonight, and so I was not able to watch this incredible matchup of Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky. And I've never been more heartbroken about anything, but I was keeping up. You were keeping me posted, Wes, and you made it through. Kudos to you. How are you doing?
You made me suffer alone. That's all I'll say. This was awful. This was terrible. The Steelers have such a joke record, and we got some surprising fantasy outputs that we're going to talk about a little bit as well. So there's that aspect, which is what the point of our show is. But as far as actually enduring that was pathetic. There's no other way around it. That was pathetic.
Yeah. As much as people will talk about how Kenny Pickett isn't a franchise quarterback, he may not be, but he's better than Mitch Trubisky, it seems.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty absurd. It feels like we've had that with a couple teams recently this season where it's like, come on, we're not doing anything here. The backup must be better. And then we see the backup and it's like, okay, so Kenny Pickett was first round pick for a reason. Okay,
hey, there's a reason they're the backup.
Yeah,
so
this all makes
stop
sense.
Pretending. Gosh.
Yeah, listen, we'll talk about the fantasy impacts that happened on Thursday, because as wild as it is and how much of a disappointing game it may have been to watch, a handful of like notable and surprising, conversation worthy fantasy football performances out of Thursday night's game of the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the New England Patriots. So it'll be a fun time. We're going to break that down a little bit, go over a little bit of news, and of course give you some studs and duds, the final studs and duds of the regular season for fantasy football. It's going to be a good time. Before we do all that, comment down below. Let us know. Did you have anybody starting on Thursday night? Did you roll out anybody with your season on the line for fantasy football, hoping maybe taking a dart throw? Hopefully this person will pay off, and maybe they did. Let us know down there. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, ring that bell as well, so you'll always get our post notifications whenever we are dropping content for you. And while you're down there, make sure you are following us on all our socials. You'll see it below us here at Fourth and Troll, and on Facebook at Fourth and Troll Fantasy. We're always putting out content there for you as well to keep you guys in the loop, drop some fantasy football knowledge, and hopefully make you laugh, because I don't know, being funny is fun.
We're the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. We hope you can laugh during this.
Can't you tell the delivery was flawless right there? Yeah. Listen, before we do all that, though, we got some news. Got to talk about a few things in the NFL sphere before we take on the final week of the fantasy football regular season. Yes. Wes, break it down. This first one here, I can't believe we're even saying this, but there's something going on in Duval County.
Duval County may have their franchise quarterback this week, despite having what has officially been declared as a high ankle sprain. He returned to practice Thursday, and in case he doesn't play, we also have a bit of an update on CJ Beathard, who has been dealing with a shoulder injury that he sustained on Monday night against the Bengals. He's been a limited participant, so if he was going to play in place of Trevor Lawrence, he still will, but it'll be through a lot of pain. But that is the quarterback update for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Speaking of backup quarterbacks and questions about, is this guy really as bad as everyone says he is? Well, let's talk about the New York Jets for a second, because all of you are aware of the situation, but let's just give you the update on what's going on. The Jets first released Tim Boyle after they declared him the starter over Zach Wilson, and then they signed Brett Rippon, and then they decided that Zach Wilson will return as the Jets starter. And I have as the last word on our notes, whoop-de-doo, because what's the point now? Anyway, fun for the Jets fans. Kevin O'Connell confirmed they will stick with Josh Dobbs at quarterback. They are not going to make any change for Nick Mullen or anybody else on that roster. They're going to continue with Josh Dobbs, despite throwing a lot of interceptions against Chicago. It doesn't surprise us, but there was some question
I
when
think
he
the
was
city
asked
of
about
Minnesota would have called for Kevin O'Connell's head if he benched their angel savior Josh Dobbs, who came in after Kirk Cousins got hurt. Like, I can't believe it was a conversation. I'm sure we might have read into it, but I mean, we being the NFL world, but like, how could you have benched Josh Dobbs? Like,
I don't understand how they would
better.
have.
So very good to get that confirmation.
It's great for us in fantasy that have held out for weeks and weeks to play Justin Jefferson, because he practiced in full this week, and he will play Sunday for the first time since week 5. Jay Jettas is back. If you somehow made it to playoffs without Justin Jefferson, congratulations. That is A+ caliber move on your part there. Okay. Brian Dable announced Tommy DeVito will also remain the starter for this week, not Tyrod Taylor. Of course, we'll see how that changes after this week with Tyrod Taylor's return. Darren Waller has also been running routes for the Giants, and he's trying to get back to practice. He could potentially play this week, but it seems unlikely. Christian Kirk will need surgery from a core muscle injury, and he will miss the rest of the fantasy football season. Thank you for your service. You were a top 15 wide receiver and a great pick. We will miss you. We'll draft you next year. Dawson Knox. Yeah, the Bills tight end has been designated off of IR, opening his 21-day practice window. He's not expected to play this week, but his role could impact Dalton Kincaid. We hope not, because Kincaid has been a boss, but we'll see if there's any kind of tight end duo in Buffalo for the last couple of weeks. Isaiah Pacheco missed practice Wednesday and Thursday with a shoulder injury. He is questionable for Sunday's game against Buffalo. That would be major, not only for fantasy, but for the Chiefs' offense as they just continue to struggle, it feels like. Tight ends, again, seem to be returning this week as Dallas Goedert is trying to play despite having a fractured forearm. He's going to try to play against the Cowboys. He's been playing full this week, and he, in fact, is likely to play on Sunday for the first time in about 3 weeks. Dalton Schultz, the tight ends are all back, baby. He returned to practice this week. He should be ready to go as well. Also, very important for CJ Stroud now that Tank Dell is out for the season. Derek Carr is still in concussion protocol, but apparently everything else is just fine. And if he clears protocol, he will start. It's like he's a Frankenstein. It's like he's been
How many
put together.
steel rods does this guy have in his body?
I don't know. You know what I heard? Okay, look, pardon my bias, okay, just for 1 second. But nobody is really talking the narrative about how many concussions Derek Carr's had this season. Nobody's talked about, this guy's had 2 or 3, but you go down to South Beach and they were calling for Tua to retire. I don't understand. I'm just pointing that out because this is not the first time Derek Carr has been in concussion protocol.
It's
and played every game. I'm just saying.
It's something. It's something. And he's in a little bit of hot water with his own teammate right now, it feels like. I'm not sure if you saw this. I only heard about this on Thursday afternoon. Michael Thomas posted something like on his Instagram story or on his Twitter or something, and it was like something along the lines of like like some quote that was like broken eyes get players hurt or something like that. And like Chris Olave's gotten hurt so far this season. Rashid Shaheed's been hurt. Michael Thomas is obviously out for the season. Taysom Hill isn't practicing right now. Seems like the era of Derek Carr in New Orleans may not be a very long one, depending on how Dennis Allen views this. But
if like he's throwing hospital passes too often.
It feels like it maybe. I mean, it is worth looking at that. Like, hey, Michael Thomas got hurt. Taysom Hill's now hurt. Chris Olave's missed a couple games. Rashid Shaheed's out. It's like, yeah, maybe. And when you see Derek Carr has gotten hurt, and granted, it may not be fully his own fault, but like some of his plays, he's gotten hit pretty hard, and he's been out of the pocket. I won't say he's playing with like a reckless abandon, but like it I don't know. Maybe I just don't love Derek Carr lately, but I don't know. Somehow the dude is somehow he's Iron Man is what we land on here.
It's got Wolverine blood. He's just somehow playing every single week this season. It's remarkable. Hey, last two pieces of news, and then we will unfortunately talk about the Steelers and Patriots game. Amari Cooper still hasn't practiced this week due to concussion protocol. He is definitely questionable for this week. It's at this stage, if he doesn't clear it by the time this episode is released on this Friday, then he's probably not going to play Sunday. Just keep that in mind. And speaking of Cleveland, Dorian Thompson-Robinson did return to practice this week, but Joe Flacco was still taking first-team snaps, which implies as of now they're going to start Joe Flacco going forward.
Woo!
That's it. Yeah, baby.
Flacco Super Bowl season, MVP. Baby.
Oh, playoff team. Let's go, Cleveland. Dog pound.
Joe Flacco threw a touchdown last week, and Jimmy Graham caught a touchdown last week. What year are we in?
Yeah, this is definitely what is going on? 10 years ago.
Yeah,
hilarious.
What the heck?
That's it for the news. Let's
talk, Wes.
Let's talk about how horrible this game was.
Thank you. I want to just put an official thank you out there. Thank you for enduring this on my behalf. So I did not have to. You've got some stats written down here, some just things we talked about the game. You filled me on how it went. I was following along as well, but a combined 7 for 27 on third down between both teams. What a 25%, man! What a thrilling match this must have been. I mean, this is just 4 for 13 for the Patriots, 3 for 14 for the Steelers, and yet somehow we still have like 6 names worth mentioning in fantasy football. It's somehow happened. Listen, we'll start out with the quarterbacks here because. And this is 6-point passing touchdown scoring, so it's a little less if you're in 4-point scoring. But Mitch Trubisky with 23.6 fantasy points, and from everything I gathered and what you told me, Wes, he looked atrocious. Like he
was so
terrible.
Bad. He was he was not good. And the Steelers fans were not having it, man. They were chanting for Mason Rudolph to take the field.
Oh, gosh.
They were booing at almost every incompletion, and he had 13 incompletions. So it was hard to watch. And and not even mention, you talked about the third down failures that were happening on both sides of the ball. But then there were the fourth down conversions, and they were just there inside the 10-yard line, and they still don't get the fourth down. It was bad. And we went into the game, and Kirk Herbstreit was, tossing around the idea like, hey, these are two franchises that are still trying to figure out if their starters going into the season should be their franchise quarterbacks. We've got Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi is now starting, but you've also got the Steelers, and they're kind of questioning, is Kenny Pickett really for them? And, Trubisky's been around the block. He's a veteran. Maybe this is where they want to go. Don't you dare. Don't replace Kenny Pickett with Mitch Trubisky.
Please.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I mean, terrible, terrible stuff. And yet somehow we still land here with Mitch Trubisky scoring 23.6 fantasy points. I don't know who had the stones to roll out Mitch Trubisky this week. I don't know who had the steel nerves to just go
After
ahead and just
Herbert gets 7
exactly.
points.
Exactly. But 23.6, I will say, in a dynasty league I'm in, I had some injuries and bye weeks at quarterback. So I've had Trubisky on my roster all season just because it was like, hey, if anything ever happens to Pickett, I think it was after Pickett's first injury that I was like, hey, let me pick him up just in case. And then Pickett came back and played that week, but I never dropped him. I had to play Mitch Trubisky this week, and I'm like, hey,
Oh my
all right,
gosh.
it could have been worse. It could have been worse. So 23.6 there. And then his top target and my must start from Tuesday's episode. And it was a cautious must start because it was like, hey, I don't know if you want to be starting anybody in this matchup here, but if you have to start someone, make it Deontay Johnson. 7 targets is what you love to see out of this. He led the team in target. Actually, he was tied with Pat Freiermuth, but he led the team with Freiermuth in targets. 57 yards and a touchdown on 3 catches. Not great, but he gets you 14.7 fantasy points. And that's, I mean, at least everywhere I saw, that's higher than he was projected. So you were saved by a little bit of a deep pass. I think it was like a 25-yard catch on that last drive for Pittsburgh. But Deontay ends up being okay. And I guess maybe what we can take away here is like, it maybe feels like we're going to be spreading the ball around. I'll say, like, New England defense is no joke. They just held Justin Herbert and the Chargers to 6 points. So, like,
Right.
New England
They
defense
had
has
a
been a lot
historic
better.
stat, actually, with having 3 straight games of holding opponents under 10 points. Or they've held opponents under 10 points in 3 games. And in fact, they lost all those
and
games.
lost every single one of them. Yeah, hilarious. That's so funny.
They're a good defense.
Yeah, so this could be a little different against another team, but it wasn't great. But it seems like Mitch Trubisky's going to spread the ball around. 7 targets for Deontay Johnson, 7 for Pat Freiermuth, 6 for George Pickens, 5 for Jaylen Warren, 3 for Najee Harris. Like, it seems like everybody's going to get a little piece of the pie, at least from what we're gathering from this game. But the only skill player that, if I have to play a skill player from the Steelers going forward, I mean, the running backs might be a matchup dependent play, but the only one I'll feel comfortable considering is Deontay Johnson. So it seems.
I can't. I mean, it's now playoffs. The next time we have a Steelers player to put in our lineups is going to be playoffs.
Right.
3 for 14 on 3rd down. That's an offense that's so inefficient. There's no way I can trust the team to extend the play. This is back-to-back weeks. They've lost to a 2-win team, the Cardinals, and now the Patriots. And it's Mitch Trubisky again for sure next week, because Kenny Pickett was going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. So it's definitely Trubisky next week. And that's actually the concern for me, is that he did spread the ball and only got 191 yards. I mean, 7 targets to Deontay Johnson, 7 targets to Freiermuth, as you said, 6 to George Pickens. Those are all good. And Jaylen Warren had 5 targets. You've been saying it. Yes, the targets are nice, but he only got 191 yards. And truth be told, Trubisky should have had 3 interceptions. He should have had 3 interceptions. One of them was called back on a holding penalty, and the other, it should have been 4. It should have been 4, because one was just dropped by a defender, and then one was thrown into a Patriots team meeting, and it just fell short. But it was, I personally can't move forward with any Steelers player in fantasy for the playoffs, because the best it feels like we're going to get is 15 points. That's not going to win me a champion. That's not going to get me to the next round. So
no, and it won't. I mean, I'm with you. And all I want to say is, if you have to, the only one I feel like, if you're like, if I was desperate and I had George Pickens on my bench or somebody else, like, it wouldn't be George Pickens. It would be whoever else I had. If you
Right.
Deontay Johnson is the only one that you can put in your lineup and close your eyes and just hope something happens, and hopefully he finds the end zone. Maybe it doesn't look good though. This is, I mean, hopefully the timeline return. If you're desperate and if you've been banking on, you're holding on to Deontay while he was hurt, and he was an early pick for you, I think 5th or 6th round, and maybe this turns out for him. Maybe whenever Pickett returns, maybe he gets lucky a couple weeks, but it doesn't feel good going forward with the Steelers, which is disappointing, especially for a guy like Pat Freiermuth. Like we really felt like he was going to pick back up in this new scheme offense here, and again, like all 3 weeks he's been back so far, like his targets have been good, but like the targets are such low quality with Mitch Trubisky under center. So
yeah,
it hey, maybe a long week helps them, but I'm not rolling anyone out in round 1 of the playoffs from this team. If they prove me wrong, that's when I'll close my eyes and throw somebody in a lineup and hope for a miracle. But it does not feel good. It doesn't feel good. That's for sure.
I don't know if anybody that made playoffs has any Steelers on their teams. I mean, honestly, I don't know if anybody that has Steelers on their teams has made fantasy playoffs. So this may be a redundant talking point just to begin with, but the last thing, and then we'll talk about the Patriots' surprising success in fantasy and in the real world. I'm not gonna overreact in this way, but you got to look at the Steelers' offense and be like, was Matt Canada really the problem? I mean, just something to think about as we look at just the offense and how inefficient they were. Again, it's Trubisky, not Kenny Pickett, so who knows what this game would have looked like instead.
Yeah, but we've seen a game and a half of Trubisky without Matt Canada, and we've seen a game and a half now with Trubisky at quarterback without Matt Canada. So I think next week will be very, very telling, hopefully, because it's disappointing. Hopefully, man, I hope Tomlin pulls some voodoo and he keeps his streak alive of a winning record. Dude, just
two more games.
2 more wins. 2 more wins in the next 4. That's all you need.
That's it.
That's all you need. 2 more wins in the next 4. Figure it out, and you split your final 4, and you keep your streak alive. So,
gosh,
Pittsburgh Steelers make me sad. I'm never going to Pennsylvania. New England, on the other hand, hey, like 4 guys here that are like fantasy relevant. We're talking about Bailey Zappi throws 3 touchdowns, 219 for 28, 240 and 3, throws an interception. He's 28 fantasy points on the week. And dude, I think Bailey Zappi is going to finish as like a top 5 quarterback this week. Like 28 points is no small number. Like that's not super easy to surpass. I mean, we'll see what happens, but dude, 28 fantasy point day. If you were desperate and you had to roll out Zappi somewhere, congratulations. Like you hit a home run. Like he threw 3 touchdowns. Good day for him.
More than this though, Zappi's going to finish the year as the Patriots starter.
You can't win a game. Yeah, no, if he won the game and threw for 191 yards, a touchdown and an interception, he would remain the starter the rest of the year. Like if he had Mitch Trubisky's stat line and they won the game, Belichick would have been like, damn, that feels good. All right, yeah, roll him out, zap. There we go. He has a good game here for fantasy. Not sure how many people started him. I wonder what the percentage is there, but hey, there you go. The risky start that I rolled out was Ezekiel Elliott. I said 23 opportunities in this game in the game prior. Once Ramondre Stevenson went out, was great. You love to see it. That's awesome. You're loving the workload he's getting. We just haven't seen him be a workhorse in a long time, so we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know how it's going to go. We know James Conner just ran all over the Steelers defense. 27 points for Ezekiel Elliott, another New England Patriot that's likely to finish top 5 at the position in fantasy this week. Dude, is Zeke maybe a league winner? Like we know Ramondre is good. We know Ramondre was a very talented guy, but a big piece of Ramondre was, hey, he gets a lot of work in the PPR game, and he's their guy. They trust him. Dude, 22 carries, 30 opportunities in this game. I mean,
crazy.
7 for 72 and a touchdown in the air. Pretty inefficient on the ground. 70 yards, 68 yards on 22 carries. So wasn't like carving it up, but I'm rolling out, unlike any of these Steelers players, I'm rolling out Ezekiel Elliott in round 1 of the playoffs next week, I think. Like, I feel good about it. I don't know. What do you think, dude?
It's hard to look at that stat and say that's a fluke because you do it 2 weeks in a row. And I know 10 points last week wasn't impressive, but if you're going to get 140 yards on the ground and in the air, and you're going to finish with nearly 30 points, I mean, I'll admit it. I was worried about it, and
me too.
I'm proven wrong. And I guess Ezekiel Elliott is the way to go for fantasy playoffs.
Dude, Zeke might be a league winner. I don't know. This is very, very interesting. Let me check here. I'm curious now. I want to see the remaining schedule. I want to see who else is in the cards for them going forward, because, dude, depending on this matchup, this could be pretty spicy here.
They still have to play,
Kansas
all
City,
the AFC East.
Kansas City, Denver, and Buffalo in the fantasy playoffs. So let me double check. Sorry, that was the matchup for Hunter Henry here. So Kansas City, Denver, and Buffalo. Kansas City, you've been able to run on a little bit more as of late. They're allowing the 3rd highest yards per carry over the last month.
Right.
Denver, their matchup's always going to be tainted by the Miami game, but you can tend to run against them, as you saw Alexander Madison have some success in primetime a handful of weeks ago. Damian Pierce found the end zone. I mean, that last week. That's something interesting there. And then Buffalo, you've been able to run the ball against this year. Like, Zeke might be a lineup lock for the fantasy playoffs, dude. I don't know.
Just might.
30 opportunities. 30 opportunities. How do you? And that's the thing. Like, that's all. Like, that's matchups based off the ground game. Like, dude saw 8 targets. 8 targets, and they're I mean, 7 for 72 and a touchdown. Like, that's better than Deontay Johnson's day. Like what? Huh?
It's amazing. You take away just the rushing statistics, what he did on the ground, and that's still more than 20 points.
Yeah, that's still 20
more
points
than 20
in the air.
points.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Zeke is a lineup lock for the fantasy playoffs. The opportunities he's going to get is crazy. Is it 2016 again or what, dude? I don't even. What is going? Dude. Is Ezekiel Elliott about to carry people to a fantasy football championship? He very well could. This is crazy. I was debating. I'm very happy I did this. I threw him into my lineup last minute. I was debating between Jaylen Warren and Ezekiel Elliott. I'm very happy I went with Zeke. I feel really good about it. It's exciting stuff there. A birthday boy had a decent game. Excuse me. He was my don't start.
Yes.
And I believe my exact quote was, Hunter Henry isn't Trey McBride. Don't get cute. Well, Hunter Henry caught 2 touchdowns just like Trey McBride did. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is like what, like, I guess he is. I mean, happy birthday, Hunter Henry. 19 fantasy points on 3 opportunities isn't very sustainable, but good for him. He found the end zone twice. If for some reason you took a shot on Hunter Henry, congrats. Like, I don't know what to tell you there, but good game for him.
Do we now roll out the Colts tight end? Because the Steelers are playing them
2
next.
straight weeks.
Right.
Is it Kylan Grant? No, I mean, maybe. Dude, we gotta watch, because maybe
who's the Colts tight end?
Kylan Granson, I believe, or like I don't think Mo Alley Cox is back yet. I believe they have a guy named Ogletree as well. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you can, but it's something you watch. Because if the Steelers do 3 weeks in a row, just giving up big points to the tight end. Yeah. If they go 3 weeks in a row, giving up big points to the tight end spot, maybe it's one of those matchups you target.
Dude, Kylan Granson just had 10 points.
Dude, if it happens, it's ridiculous. I don't know.
Kylan Granson's gonna get two touchdowns against Steelers in week 15.
Absurd.
I can't wait.
Playoff hero.
You heard it here first. 4th and Troll.
Last one here we'll talk about, and then we'll get through this Thursday night mess. Juju Smith-Schuster, 13 fantasy points, 4 catches for 90 yards on 6 targets. Wes, I think this isn't fluke or for real, but if it was, I'd say fluke. Pop Douglas is not playing right now. Devontae Parker, I don't think was active. I believe I saw him on the inactive list. I'm not sure if he was active or not. He may have been. I could have missed.
No, I didn't see him at all. But really, most of that was the first drive. Really, is what it felt like. The first 2, and it was like, oh, that's right. Maybe this is a revenge game for Juju Smith-Schuster. He's in Pittsburgh. He's going to try to do something, and that was kind of it. It was like really those first two drives, and that it just stalled out afterwards. So yeah, it is a fluke.
Not looking at much going forward there with Juju. If the passing game continues, it'll be through Pop Douglas, who when he comes back, he'll be involved, I'm sure. And Ezekiel Elliott's going to continue getting at least. I'll say he's going to get at least 5 targets over the next 3 games. I think that's where we're at with this team.
Each game.
Yeah. For the next through the fantasy playoffs, I think he will average 5 targets a game. Mark my words. We'll write that one down to revisit that because that's one I want to.
Done.
I want to come back to. But Zeke is going to be a playoff hero. I'm calling it. Last one. Last thing we'll mention on Thursday night, because we got a comment on one of our YouTube videos from user Pain is what I felt knowing this game was happening. By the way, Pain QK4QH. Originality to the max right there, by the way, as well. But gosh, this is just creatives are everywhere, man. Creatives are everywhere.
We're in a renaissance.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Listen, we got this comment on our YouTube video that we posted about Thursday night and how terrible it was going to be. They just said, "F it, I'm taking Pats and the over." I don't know how much money you won in this, but great job because you knocked it out of the park.
She's a genius.
Yeah, unbelievable. There you go.
I want to know, Payne, who are your studs and duds for the week? Could you let us know? Because clearly you know something we don't.
You know everything. Yeah. Listen, that's going to do it for the Thursday night recap. We made it through. Thank goodness. Wes, I'm sorry you had to endure that, but we are through.
I am too.
The rest of the final week of the regular season. And these are perhaps, like I said, the most important studs and duds of the year. I'm going to jump into studs and duds here. If you are new to 4th and Troll Fantasy, and FU Pain-QK4QH. F it. I'm taking the Pats and the over. If you're new to 4th and Troll Fantasy, studs and duds, this is how it goes. Every week we give you a stud and a dud. Studs are people that we think are going to exceed their expectations as far as their fantasy football projection goes. People that we think, hey, these are guys you should have in your lineup. This is going to be a good week for them. We're really feeling strongly about that. And duds, the exact opposite here. People that we think, hey, these guys might be in your lineup, but you're going to want to temper your expectations here. It may not be as pretty as you hope it will be. That being said, I'm going to start out here with my week 14 stud. And I'm excited about this one because this player is going to play in prime time. And I think they're going to shine under the lights. My week 14 stud is Jalen Waddle, wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football. I think Jalen Waddle is about to have a really, really good game. He has had 8 or more targets in 6 of his last 8 games. And the only 2 games he didn't have 8 targets in were the games where he was hurt and did not play the entire game, Philly and Kansas City. He has still been involved. He has been getting his looks from Tua. They just have not converted the same way they have in his first 2 seasons. 8 targets a game is a fantastic benchmark to be at. And I know people have been disappointed with Jalen Waddle. He's been a little hurt. He hasn't had the big, massive games yet. I'm feeling good about Jalen Waddle this week. And just to add a little bit more spice onto that, last week against the Indianapolis Colts, Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce combined for 22 targets, 14 catches, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns between the two of those guys. Now, I know if you've been watching Hard Knocks, you've seen it. If you watch the Dolphins this season, you've seen it. I know Tua loves himself some Tyreek, but I'm thinking Jalen Waddle gets himself involved here. I'm gonna make a call here. I'm gonna say we're looking at maybe a 6 for 90 and a touchdown week. Looking at like a 20+ point week for Jalen Waddle here. I'm excited about Jalen Waddle in this final week of the regular season. And since it's the final week of the regular season, Wes, I'm breaking the rules. Breaking the rules. That's right. I've got a stud 2.0 for week 14. Whoa! I've got 2 studs this week. Whoa! You know why? Because it's the final week of the regular season. We need to know, and I got you. Here we go. Stud 2.0 for week 14, the final week of the regular season, the final week before fantasy football playoffs. You need to lock somebody in. You need somebody to carry you to a victory. Is James Cook, baby. James Cook, running back for the Buffalo Bills, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs this weekend. James Cook, since Ken Dorsey had gotten fired, has 44 opportunities over his last 2 games. To put that into context, the 4 games prior to Ken Dorsey being fired, including that primetime game against Denver, James Cook had 46 opportunities through those 4 games. And he has had 44 opportunities in his last 2 since Ken Dorsey's been fired, which is interesting because if you go and you look at it, he's played his lowest snap count that he has this whole season in these 2 games. But they are being very intentional with James Cook as they are using him. He has had a 14% target share over these last 2 weeks without Ken Dorsey. And like I said earlier, Kansas City is allowing the 3rd highest yards per carry over the last month. And if we know anything about James Cook, he is wildly efficient when he is on the ground. I know the Philadelphia game, he had a drop, and that could have been an even bigger day for you. But he has been wildly good over the last 2 games since Ken Dorsey had gotten fired. His fantasy output is 19.2 fantasy points and 16 fantasy points, tied for his 2 of his highest weekly finishes since he has been playing this season. Ken Dorsey's out and James Cook is in. He's locked into my lineup. I'm actually playing James Cook over Puka Nacua this week in a tough matchup against Baltimore. I feel better about James Cook against Kansas City as I'm making those tough decisions. It's a tough one. You got to think about it. Definitely make sure you compare some stuff, but I'm feeling great about James Cook this week. He's being used well. He's being used efficiently, and they have a game plan for him. He's getting a lot of work, and it's going to be a good time for him this weekend against Kansas City. James Cook, stud 2.0 for week 14. Let's get some dubs here. Carry yourselves to the playoffs. Let's go, dude.
The courtesy of you to give 2 studs is amazing. That is thoughtful. That is dedication because, not a lot of people at this point are going to be paying attention to fantasy football podcasts and shows. So people are writing off their season like, well, it's a long shot to win. Yeah. Let's go, dude. You got 2 studs for us. Let me react real quickly and then I will give mine as well.
Yeah, definitely.
For James Cook, at the very least, it's just a good reminder that you should still start him. I'm someone with you that has just believed in James Cook for a long time, felt frustrated with his lack of opportunities, felt frustrated for his lack of touchdowns as well. That's been a real issue in fantasy for us, for James Cook's owners. But this does feel right. And, personally, I don't think whatever way it happens, I think the Chiefs are still somehow going to find a way to beat the Bills just because that's just their nature. And, it feels like it could go either way, but I still feel good about them using James Cook, even if they're down, even if for whatever reason they're down by 2 scores at some point. James Cook seems to be important in that offense. Jalen Waddle. What did you say? That Colts wide receivers had 22 catches, 200 something
22
yards.
targets for 14 catches, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns between Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce on last Sunday.
14 catches, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Okay, so that's Tyreek Hill's stat line.
Right, yeah.
And here's the only concern I have, because we've now seen this multiple weeks from the Dolphins. They'll be up so big that the starters get benched in the third quarter. I genuinely think that's the reason Jalen Waddle is not producing to the third round talent we drafted him for, is the Dolphins score so quickly and they're up so big that they just give the guys a break.
Yeah.
And it's a hilarious frustration, because at least you can, I mean, the statistics you gave are helpful for Jalen Waddle owners to know, like, I know it's there. It's all there. They just end up getting 30 to 40 points by halftime, and then they just start showering by the third quarter and just go and get rid of the press conference. Like, it's ridiculous. So I would love to see Jalen Waddle to put up some big numbers the last few weeks. That would be major for fantasy playoffs, but we'll see how that really pans out. But
I pull from something here from Hard Knocks. And it was there's a funny little moment there in this latest Hard Knocks episode in season with the Miami Dolphins. If you haven't watched on Max, not a sponsor, but if you want to be and you want to give us money, you're a sponsor. So there you go. On Max, HBO Hard Knocks in season with the Miami Dolphins. They're in practice, and Mike McDaniel leans over to the executive vice president of the Miami Dolphins and goes. And this is before the Washington game, so this is not about the Tennessee game. But he leans over to the EVP and he goes, I just got a feeling Tua's going to go for 405 on Sunday. And Tua did not get there against the Commanders. Tua had a great day. He was like 18 for 24, 250 and 2 or something like that. He had a great day running the offense. But it seems like Mike McDaniel wants Tua to have that game. Wants Tua to have another Denver-like game. Wants Tua to have another Chargers-like game. And if we go back to, like I said, 8 targets in 6 of his last 8 for Waddle. The Commanders game, the play right before Raheem Mostert's touchdown, Jalen Waddle got himself in an incredible space in the middle of the field, wide open. And he went down at like the 6-yard line. And it's like, dude, if he gets a little angle and he gets in the end zone there, he's having like an 18-point day versus that 10-point day. So I'm feeling good about Waddle, man. It's definitely, you got to put on an extra pair of tighty whities to be able to really feel okay rolling him out. But I believe under the lights, I think he's due for his game. So we're going to see Tyreek have his go for 202, but I think Jalen Waddle can have a really solid game this final week of the fantasy playoffs. I think he's due. I think it's time. So that's it for my stud 'S studs. Wes, give me your stud for week 14, and we'll jump into some duds after that.
Oh, I'm leaning in to someone we saw on the previous Thursday night, on the week 13 Thursday night. We saw this rookie wide receiver come alive for his team, and he seems to be moving and grooving, and I think you can roll out Jackson Smith and Jigba, not just this week, but I think you might be able to put him into your flex option for the season. He is cooking. He is phenomenal. There is very, 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 very good reason that he was the first wide receiver taken in this NFL draft. There must be a reason that the Seahawks drafted a wide receiver, not just while DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are on the team, but they were the first team to take a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the 5th pick overall, and they still got Jackson Smith and Jigba later on in the draft. Now, First 7 games of the season, JSN averaged 59% snap count. Last 5 games, that's been a nice increase to 71% snap count.
Yeah.
He is being part of this offense more and more. He's integrating into this scheme with Geno Smith. He's fresh off of an 11 target performance that equated to 62 yards and a touchdown that was overturned.
BS, dude.
BS. He's in the end zone often. He is going to be part of this offense for the rest of the season. They are in the playoff hunt as well. They are fighting for their spot in this NFC postseason. San Francisco is their next opponent. They are allowing the 7th most points to wide receivers. I know some of you may be scared of what they just did to the Philadelphia Eagles, but division games are wild, man. Division games are crazy. Let's not forget the Patriots have beat the Buffalo Bills. Let's not forget the Broncos have beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Commanders give nail-biter games to the Eagles. Division games are wild, and I feel good about Jackson Smith and Jigba. And last point, all of their running backs are pretty banged up. Some of them may not even play. They're going to need to use the passing game no matter what happens. That's my stud for the week. Oh, and I've got a stud 2.0 that we didn't even plan.
Don't.
I'm not even kidding.
What's going on here?
Now,
what's going on here right before the playoffs?
I wasn't going to say this person because I was like, wow, how many people are in this situation? But then you said I've got 2 studs. I was like, well, I do too, actually.
Let's go.
Roll out Justin Fields. Come on, man. Going against Detroit. Detroit's defense, where's the D? I can't see the defense. I mean, there's nobody in that backfield. Let me quote NFL Street to you. Justin Fields, bye week, first game. Where's the D? I can't see the defense. I think Justin Fields, I feel so good about rolling out Justin Fields. I think he's going to be QB1 on the week. I feel it. And for fun, in our family league, Noah, it's not going to mark my words, but it's going to be pretty close because here's the idea. I need to win. I need someone else to lose, okay? And I don't think that really have a shot. I'm going to start Justin Fields over Jalen Hurts.
Wow. Who did the Eagles play?
Cowboys.
The Cowboys? Dang, dude. After Geno just torched him? I mean, oh, man. I mean...
Sounds crazy. It sounds insane.
It does, but if we're playing the ceiling, oh man, that's tough. There's 2 such similar players.
They are similar.
That's crazy. Man, that's dude.
Division game. I'm thinking about it. It's tough to say who. There's really only one quarterback you should start instead of Justin Fields. Instead of Jalen Hurts, and that's Josh Allen. But I might, just for fun, start Justin Fields. Either way, he's my stud 2.0 because the Lions defense has been horrible the last several weeks, and they're going to want to have a lot of fun. I can feel it. They're going to want to spoil the Lions.
Yeah, no, I love it. Let me talk about JSN real quick. We raved about this guy in pre-draft process. Didn't understand the landing spot. It's exposed itself over the last month and a half. He is definitely becoming more involved. Tyler Lockett maybe taking a back seat to him. It looks promising for JSN going forward. So I fully agree, and I'm with you on that, and I give my stamp of approval, not that you need it. With Justin Fields came back just 2 games before he got hurt. He was incredible. He was throwing for he threw 8 touchdowns in 2 games, right? If something if he had 2 4-touchdown games, something along those lines, it was
right.
He was playing incredible. He's come back. They had a weird win over the Vikings, but his game against the Lions 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but he lit it up. He was playing awesome. Him and DJ Moore had the connection. His last touchdown to DJ Moore was a frozen rope, that ball over the middle. Fields looks awesome. It's something we saw last year towards the second half of the season. Maybe they're hitting their stride here. Maybe this is going to be a positive thing going forward. Hopefully, he can hold on to the football. That's the plan and the hope and the dream. Hopefully, we get rid of those fumbles there. But I love Fields. Dude, Fields got dropped in the league that I'm in And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, I already have, and it's awesome because I have Herbert, and I'm like, like when I saw the drop, I was like, I've got Herbert, and then it was like, oh, Herbert's playing kind of like dog crap, dude. So like, I went and I put in a claim for Fields. It's going to clear in the morning. We'll see if it goes through, but dude, we'll see.
If you get Fields, do it.
Chargers get Denver.
Justin instead of Justin.
Yeah, Chargers get Denver. Like, that's a tough defense. Like, CJ Stroud just had not like the best game against Denver. Like, I don't know, dude. That's tough. Yeah, that's tough, man. I'd probably go Fields if I have Fields in the lineup there. So, if I get him,
note, and then we'll do
know.
duds. 3 weeks ago, Justin Fields rushed for 104 yards against Detroit.
14
and
carries,
defense
right?
is even worse. 18 carries. It's
18
even
carries.
worse.
I knew it was like way higher. Yeah,
worse defense than it was even just 3 weeks ago. I'm really going to contemplate Fields over Jalen Hurts just for funsies.
Yeah,
but
Fields is going to be awesome this week.
Yeah.
Fields is going to be awesome. I'm 100% with you. I'm 100% with you. Talk about duds here real quick before we close up the show. I'm not happy about this dud pick, but I unfortunately think it's going to happen, and I think CJ Stroud is going to be a dud this week. He's been incredible. He's been he's the clear rookie of the year. In some spheres, he's still in the MVP conversation. But you don't pass against the Jets. I benched Tua 2 weeks ago because he's playing the Jets. One, because I thought, hey, we're probably going to go up. Dolphins are probably going to go up, and he's not going to have that good of a game. But even Tua, like maybe a couple ill-advised throws, but Tua threw a pick 6, and they threw another pick like a few plays later. Well, no matter the circumstance, like it's not been great for quarterbacks against the Jets this season. In fact, only 3 quarterbacks have thrown for over 250 yards against the Jets this season. So that's already going against CJ Stroud there. Add on to it, he doesn't have Tank Dell. I know Nico Collins looked awesome. Nico Collins looked great last week. He seemed to fill in just fine. 191 yards. He was fantastic. Let's revisit that trade Jamar Chase for Nico Collins clip. Maybe a little later this season. We'll talk about it. But in games without Tank Dell this season, CJ Stroud is averaging just 14.8 fantasy points per game. It's not been great. It's not been great. And it's weird to think about, right? Because CJ Stroud's been so awesome. I said a couple episodes ago that I think CJ Stroud's going to be one of the best quarterbacks to play the game over the next 15 years. Like he's going to be a top 5 quarterback for the next 15 years, I think. He looks so good. His talent is incredible. He passes the eye test. He's such a good quarterback. But this just feels like a game with a whole lot of handoffs. And I'm just worried that in a historically tough matchup this season, I don't know if historical is the right word there, but a tough matchup for quarterbacks this season, and with a duo in the backfield, which Dameon Pierce hasn't been great, but he shined last week when he got some opportunities. He gets in the end zone. And against a defense that you can run the ball against in New York, I'm just not confident in rolling out CJ Stroud this week. I understand if you have to, if you put all your chips in his basket, but I'm just tempering your expectations here. I think he could be a week 14 dud against this tough Jets pass defense.
That's fair. That is fair. And I understand people may not have a choice. They may have just been rolling out with CJ Stroud after several amazing weeks. And they're like, well, I don't need to use this other spot for quarterback. We're past the Texans bye week. He's been consistent. I'm not going to lose because of CJ Stroud. If you have another choice, consider that option. I won't say you should bench CJ Stroud if you have another quarterback. It does depend on who it is.
Sure.
But the point remains, the Jets defense has been really hard for fantasy quarterbacks, and it was the right call to bench Tua simply because they're playing the Jets. And Robert Saleh, it's come back to bite him because they don't really win a lot of games. But he made the point of like, yeah, we've humiliated great quarterbacks, and he backtracked it, which I don't think he should have. I think he should lean into it because his head coach trying to get his team fired up. But the point was, not even the best quarterbacks in the NFL are succeeding.
Right.
CJ Stroud is still a rookie. Don't anyone forget that. don't anyone forget he's still a rookie. So it's fair. It's a fair assumption to say CJ Stroud could be a dud this week because the Jets are still playing. The defense is still trying. I don't know why, but they are. They're trying their best.
Let's do it, Wes. Let's do it real quick, impromptu. Roll with me here for a second.
Okay.
I'm looking at some of these matchups this week, and I want to ask you, would you play CJ Stroud or this quarterback?
Okay.
Would you play CJ Stroud against the Jets or Josh Dobbs versus the Raiders?
I would say Dobbs. I like the rushing upside still.
I think that's a little piece of it. Yeah. Would you let's do this. Would you play CJ Stroud versus the Jets or would you play Jared Goff versus the Bears?
I would play Jared Goff.
I think I would too. I think it's close, but I think I would. I think that's how much. And if this was a different matchup, I would probably pretty quickly say CJ Stroud. But first game without Tank Dell against a tough Jets defense, I think that's where I'm at here. Here's a fun one that I'll close it out with. Would you play CJ Stroud against the Jets or Jake Browning against the Indianapolis Colts?
I suck. I got CJ Stroud. I can't.
I think I would too. After. But dude, it's a 32 for 37. I'm like, hey, the Colts
was
defense
great.
You can kind of pass against. Like,
it was
I think
great.
I'd have the conversation there, but I think I would still go CJ Stroud there. So he is my week 14 dud. But I think there are like just still a really solid, probably 10 to 12 guys I would probably feel more comfortable starting him over, this week. Against the tough Jets defense. So, Wes, close us out with your week 14 dud, and then we will hit the road.
I want to remind people about someone that many fantasy managers have been stashing for several weeks because we had a wonderful experience. And by many weeks, I mean he had an incredible one game, and we were waiting for an explosive return. And it's fresh off of a bye week. You and I refer to him as Devon Achane Light. But I think Keaton Mitchell will be a dud this week. He's an exciting player, but he's only scored more than 14 points once. And it was that game that we all saw and thought, who's this guy? That was the one time he got more than 14 points. We need to wait to see when he's going to be featured. We need to wait to see if he's truly part of the Ravens offense as a big playmaker, right? I mean, we know that Zay Flowers is going to step into that role without Mark Andrews. We saw it. He had a phenomenal game before their bye week. I know the stats and the targets didn't look amazing, but Zay Flowers is part of that offense. He is the rookie the Ravens are depending on. Gus Edwards has had a touchdown-heavy season, even though he hasn't a lot of carries and a lot of rushing yards. But that's the point, because even in spite of all of that, Keaton Mitchell has never seen more than a 46% snap count.
Yeah.
And he's never had more than 9 carries in a game. So he's exciting. He's got that league-winning upside. He's got a single-handed game-winning potential just because of his yards per carry, which is ridiculous. I think it's somewhere around 13 yards per carry still. It's stupid. But wait. Don't risk don't risk your season with the season on the line. One game to go to make playoffs. If you need to make playoffs, and you got Keaton Mitchell, and you're wondering, this might be it. I might need to do it. Or you get 3 points. And he is not the boomer bust player that we can trust in that risk reward. He's not an established veteran that we do this for. So Keaton Mitchell is my dud, just for those that forgot about him, because I did. Don't start Keaton Mitchell.
No, and I'm with you. It's tough when you're part of a committee so clearly. It's tough when you know if we're inside the 5-yard line, I'm not getting the ball handed off to me. It's tough when you know that my touches are going to be limited to a certain, chunk of plays that we have set out for me. We saw the potential and we're just waiting on it. I think he's a great dud candidate this weekend. Even if he ends up having a good game, if he breaks off another one of those touchdowns or something like that, I'm still not rolling him out round 1 of my fantasy playoffs. I'm going to need at least 2 performances in a row before I feel confident to roll him out in the semifinals of the fantasy football playoffs. So I'm with you, Wes. I think it's going to be something that we got to monitor and take a look at here. I've got him in a league where I also have Gus Edwards, and I'm going Gus Edwards over Keaton Mitchell here because of just the touchdown upside. Hoping for 10 or 11 points out of one of those two guys, I feel more confident that I could get it out of Gus Edwards versus getting it out of Keaton Mitchell. So I agree. Keaton Mitchell, somebody, like you said at the very end of that, just wait on Keaton Mitchell. It's not worth it yet, but hold him, stash him, see if he's going to pay off. And if not, we move on. We may move on here after week 14. Listen, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. We always have a good time talking fantasy football with you. May the odds be ever in your favor for fantasy football this weekend. Final week of the regular season. Let us know in the comments what you need to happen for you to be able to get in there and secure a playoff spot. Let us know if you're already in the playoffs too. We'll definitely want to be able to keep contacting and be able to keep in touch. Like if we're leaving a summer camp here, keep connecting with you about the fantasy play. Hags, yeah, there you go. Hags - Noah. Whatever. Listen, it's going to be a great time. Let us know. Did you get Zeke? Let us know if Zeke's a locked and loaded player for you for the fantasy playoffs. It probably is going to be for me. So there you go. There's that. And let us know who your studs and duds are for the week before we get into the fantasy football playoffs. It's going to be a fun time. Before you head out, before you close the video, subscribe, ring that bell, and follow us on all of our socials. Make sure to make Tuddy the Troll smile. We will catch you on Tuesday as we look forward to the fantasy football playoffs. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy. 4th and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media and Selby Artistic Workshop.